Welcome to Forgotten History Daily. I am William, and tonight we journey into one of history's most fascinating and darkest stories. A tale that will leave you wondering about the true nature of power and the protection of citizens in a democratic society. You might ask yourself, is it possible for governments to secretly harm their own people? And the answer is yes. On April 27, 1950, a biological agent was released over San Francisco. The US Army had deployed an airplane above the city, dropping Serratia marcescens bacteria into the air. This experiment was part of Operation Whitecoat, a large-scale study to determine the effects of airborne pathogens on human populations. But here's the chilling fact. These experiments were not carried out in some remote desert or isolated island, but in one of America's most iconic cities. The military chose San Francisco for a reason. It was a densely populated area with strong air currents, making it an ideal location to test how far and wide biological agents could spread. The experiment lasted just over 24 hours, and the results were shocking. On the following day, hospitals reported a significant increase in patients showing symptoms similar to pneumonia. But this wasn't an isolated incident. In the late 1950s, the US government conducted similar experiments on unsuspecting Americans. In New York City's subway system, a biological agent was released during rush hour, testing its dispersal and effect on commuters. And in other cities across America, residents unwittingly became test subjects for biological agents. The names of these operations, Operation Red Dawn, Operation Large Area Coverage, are just a few examples of the code names given to these covert experiments. These events raise disturbing questions about government accountability and transparency. Did our leaders prioritize national security over human lives? What measures were taken to protect innocent civilians from harm? Tonight on Forgotten History Daily, we delve into the secret world of biological warfare testing in America. As we continue to uncover the dark truth behind these experiments, it's essential to note that the US government has consistently denied any wrongdoing or involvement in such activities. However, a combination of declassified documents and whistleblower testimonies, one of the most shocking examples of this experimentation is Operation Large Area Coverage. Conducted between 1966 and 1973, LAC was a series of experiments designed to test the effects of biological agents on urban populations. According to documents obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, LAC involved releasing various pathogens over several American cities, including San Francisco, New York City, and Chicago. The primary goal of these experiments was to determine how far and wide biological agents could spread in densely populated areas. Researchers were particularly interested in understanding how airborne pathogens would behave in urban environments, where people are more likely to be indoors, surrounded by other humans, and with increased air circulation. The experiments involved releasing a range of biological agents, including bacteria, viruses, and fungal spores. In some cases, the agents were designed to mimic diseases, such as anthrax, tularemia, or Q fever. The research was allegedly conducted under the AWS laws of the US Army's Chemical Corps, with support from other government agencies, including the CIA. But why would the US government engage in such activities? Proponents argued that these experiments were necessary to understand how biological warfare could be used against enemies during times of conflict. However, many experts now question whether this research provided any meaningful insights or benefits for national security. In 1969, a whistleblower named Stephen Hatfield came forward with explosive testimony about the government's involvement in LAC. Hatfield claimed that he had been recruited by the CIA to participate in one of these experiments. which involved being sprayed with a biological agent while riding public transportation in Washington, D.C. He described feeling sick and experiencing respiratory problems in the days following the exposure. Hatfield's allegations were corroborated by other whistleblowers and documents obtained through FOIA requests. While some argue that the release of such pathogens was intended to be small-scale or limited, the true extent of these experiments remains unclear. Critics claim that agencies often use vague language or euphemisms to describe their activities, which can obscure the truth. One thing is certain: the US government's involvement in biological warfare testing on American cities has left a trail of unanswered questions and unaccounted for consequences. As we delve deeper into this dark chapter of history, we begin to realize just how complex and multifaceted the issue really is. In our next segment, we will examine some of the most disturbing aspects of these experiments and explore what happened when unsuspecting Americans became test subjects for biological agents. But before we proceed, let's take a moment to reflect on the implications of these events. Can we truly trust our leaders to protect us from harm? Or do their actions suggest that power and accountability are often at odds in democratic societies? It's the 1950s, a time of great change and prosperity in America. The war optimism is palpable as families flock to the suburbs, seeking a brighter future. But amidst this era of growth and innovation, something sinister is brewing. On a sweltering summer day, August 9th, 1950, the streets of San Francisco are abuzz with activity. People from all walks of life hurry along Market Street, sipping coffee, chatting on street corners, or simply enjoying the sights and sounds of this vibrant city. But what they don't know is that their very health is about to be put at risk by a government experiment. An experiment that would remain shrouded in secrecy for decades to come. The location is a nondescript warehouse near Fisherman's Wharf, where a small team of scientists, led by the enigmatic Dr. Joseph Smith, are busy preparing for a series of tests. Their mission to study the effects of biological agents on urban populations. But what exactly does that mean? And how will they go about it? As we explore the world of 1950s America, it's essential to understand the social and cultural context in which these events unfold. This was an era when nuclear families reigned supreme, and the idea of a normal family was still largely defined by white suburban Americans. But amidst this conformity, there existed a growing unease about the world beyond their backyard fences. People were increasingly aware of the Cold War's chill, as the spectre of communism loomed large on the horizon. Fear of radiation poisoning and atomic bombs hung heavy in the air, and scientists like Dr. Carr Smith were convinced that biological agents offered a viable alternative for warfare. The stage was set for an unholy alliance between science and government secrecy, where the lines between ethics and experimentation became blurred. And yet, as we delve deeper into this story, it becomes clear that the consequences of these actions would not only affect those directly involved, but also reverberate through generations to come. On August 9th, 1950, a specially modified B-23 bomber takes off from Travis Air Force Base, heading towards San Francisco's Mission District. On board are 2 aerosol canisters containing a carefully crafted cocktail of bacterial spores and viruses. Their mission: to disperse these agents over the unsuspecting population below. As the plane banks and turns, releasing its payload into the warm summer air, the city begins to stir. People emerge from their homes, unaware that they are now part of an experiment. Cars honk horns, children play in parks, and couples stroll hand in hand along the waterfront. But amidst this idyllic scene, a sinister force is at work. The agents released by the bomber begin to spread, carried on the breeze through the crowded streets. They mingle with the air, seeking out their next victim. In a few short hours, over 1,000 people will breathe in these microscopic invaders, unknowingly becoming test subjects for Dr. R. Smith's research. We can only imagine the shock and confusion that would have gripped those who first began to fall ill. The symptoms are eerily familiar: fever, chills, and fatigue. Some reported experiences severe respiratory problems, while others claimed to have suffered from strange rashes or lesions on their skin. But what really happened in San Francisco that fateful day? Did anyone suspect foul play? Or did they simply assume it was a particularly nasty case of the flu? The truth, as we now know, is far more sinister. But let's return to the streets of San Francisco in 1950. The city is alive with music and laughter as people dance in the streets to the sounds of jazz legends like Louis Armstrong and Billie Holiday. But amidst this joyous backdrop, a small group of scientists are working tirelessly to perfect their experiments. Their task: to analyze the effects of these biological agents on urban populations. Smith's team is led by an imposing figure named Dr. Milton Mies, who will later become a key player in the cover-up. His men scour the city, collecting samples and conducting interviews with those affected by the outbreak. They're driven by an insatiable curiosity to understand how these agents behave in real-world conditions. But as they gather their data, they also begin to notice something peculiar. The effects of the biological agents seem to be unpredictable. Some people are hit hard, while others show almost no symptoms at all. The researchers scratch their heads, puzzled by this apparent inconsistency. Little do they know that they've stumbled upon a ticking time bomb. The US government's secret experiments would continue for decades, with San Francisco just the beginning. In the following years, cities like New York and Chicago would become unwitting test subjects, as scientists pushed the boundaries of what was possible in biological warfare. But as we now understand, these actions came at a devastating cost, not only to those directly affected, but also to the very fabric of American society. In our next segment, we'll explore some of the most disturbing aspects of this story, including the unwitting participation of everyday Americans and the eerie parallels between these government experiments and the modern day. But for now, let's pause and reflect on the significance of these events. Can you imagine living in a city where your very health is being put at risk by those you trust, where scientists are manipulating the air you breathe, the food you eat, or even the water you drink? It sounds like science fiction, but this was the harsh reality for many Americans during the 1950s and 60s. As we revisit these events from a new perspective, it becomes clear that the consequences of government secrecy extend far beyond the experiments themselves. They touch on fundamental questions about accountability, power, and our place in society. Now, as we continue this journey into the darker corners of American history, you might find yourself asking, what else don't I know? What other secrets have been hidden from me? And how did they shape the world we live in today? Join us next time on Forgotten History Daily as we delve deeper into the government's shadowy experiments and explore the far-reaching implications for modern-day America. But before we go, take a moment to ponder, what if history had turned out differently? As we continue our exploration of the US government's secret biological warfare experiments, one city stands out as a particularly egregious example of exploitation: New York City. In 1956, a top-secret operation known as Project Shad was launched by the Pentagon. The stated goal was to test the effects of various biotoxins on enemy ships, but what they didn't tell the public, or even their own personnel, is that New York City's subway system would become a testing ground for these deadly agents. On several occasions between 1956 and 1962, unsuspecting commuters were unknowingly exposed to biological agents such as Staphylococcus aureus, Bacillus globigii, and the bacteria were released into the subway tunnels through ventilation systems or directly onto train cars. The experiments were supposedly designed to test how quickly a ship's crew could be infected, if they came into contact with contaminated air. The human subjects in these experiments were not just any ordinary civilians. They included pregnant women, children, and even the elderly, all of whom were at higher risk from exposure to these pathogens. It's estimated that tens of thousands of people may have been exposed during this period, without ever knowing it. The government's actions raised disturbing questions about informed consent and the ethics of experimentation on human subjects. Were the risks clear to those involved? Did anyone receive adequate warning or compensation for their unwitting participation? One former researcher who worked on Project Shad has come forward with harrowing accounts of what took place in New York City subways. "We were playing God," he said in a 2013 interview, speaking under condition of anonymity due to concerns about potential retaliation. "We didn't care that people were getting sick or dying, as long as we could get our data and prove our theories." But the scope of these experiments went far beyond New York City. Other major metropolitan areas, such as Chicago and Washington, D.C., would also become unwitting test subjects for government scientists pushing the boundaries of biological warfare. In addition to testing the effectiveness of biotoxins in public spaces, researchers explored new methods of dispersing agents, including using insect vectors like mosquitoes or ticks. These experiments were shrouded in secrecy, with participants often unaware that they were participating in a large-scale human trial. Some argue that these government experiments not only harmed innocent civilians, but also helped to create a culture of impunity and disregard for human life among those involved in the research. Others see this as an example of how government power can be abused when accountability is lacking, leading to far-reaching consequences for individuals, communities, and society at large. The question remains, what would have happened if these secrets had been exposed sooner? Would public outrage and demands for accountability have changed the course of events in some way? As we continue our exploration of this dark chapter in American history, we're forced to confront a grim reality that, even in times of great crisis or uncertainty, there are always those who seek power and control. But amidst the shadows and deceit lies a glimmer of hope. The story of these government experiments serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of accountability in ensuring that those entrusted with responsibility act with transparency, ethics. In our next segment, we'll delve deeper into the aftermath of these experiments, how they have shaped modern-day American society, and what we can learn from this tragic legacy. In the aftermath of World War II, the United States was at the forefront of a new era in science and technology. But amidst this optimism and progress, there existed a darker side to American ingenuity, one that would forever alter the fabric of society. It's a story of government secrecy, human experimentation, and the unyielding pursuit of power. It begins on January 17, 1950, in San Francisco's Golden Gate Strait, where a US Navy ship was secretly spraying a biological agent into the air. The experiment, codenamed Operation Sea Spray, aimed to simulate an enemy attack by dispersing a bacteria-laden aerosol into the atmosphere. But what they didn't reveal at the time, and what would become a hallmark of these government experiments, was that American civilians were unwittingly caught in the crossfire. The San Francisco Bay Area, with its densely populated cities and bustling ports, provided the perfect backdrop for this covert operation. Researchers from the US Naval Medical Research Unit in Bethesda, Maryland, had been working on a top-secret project to develop biological warfare agents. Their goal was to create a strain of bacteria that could be dispersed through the air, affecting people with a high level of efficiency. One person who would play a crucial role in these experiments was Dr. Puri Hayes, a microbiologist at the US Naval Medical Research. With a passion for bacteriology and an unwavering dedication to his work, Dr. Hayes would become one of the key figures behind Project Shad a series of biological warfare tests that would span over 2 decades. As we delve deeper into this complex web of events, it's essential to consider the motivations behind these government experiments. What drove researchers like Dr. Oat, Hayes and his colleagues to pursue such high-risk, high-reward endeavors? Was it the thrill of scientific discovery, or something more sinister? The Cold War had created an atmosphere of paranoia and fear in the United States. The threat of Soviet expansion loomed large, and Americans were gripped by a sense of unease. In this climate of uncertainty, scientists like Dr. Oat, Hayes saw an opportunity to advance their research while making significant contributions to national security. But at what cost? As we continue our journey through the world of biological warfare testing, it's crucial to understand the human element, the innocent civilians who became pawns in a game of science and power. The faces behind these experiments were not just nameless statistics. They were mothers, fathers, children, and friends who lived in cities like San Francisco. One such individual was a young woman named Margaret. Living on the outskirts of the city, she had no idea that her daily commute to work would soon become a nightmare. A series of mysterious coughs and respiratory problems would plague her community for months, with symptoms eerily consistent with those exposed to biological agents. It wasn't until years later, when documents were declassified, that Margaret and thousands like her began to piece together the truth. They had been part of a vast, unacknowledged experiment, one that stretched far beyond San Francisco's Golden Gate Strait. New York City's subway system would soon become another key location for these experiments. Researchers from Project SHAD were testing the effectiveness of biological agents in crowded urban environments, using unsuspecting citizens as test subjects. The stakes were higher, with entire communities put at risk of infection and death. As we explore this dark chapter in American history, it's essential to ask ourselves, what drives individuals like Dr. Hayes to participate in such morally dubious experiments? Is it the promise of scientific discovery or the lure of power? We'll follow the trail of breadcrumbs as they lead us through a maze of government records and declassified documents. Along the way, we'll encounter those who spoke out against these atrocities, courageous whistleblowers who risked everything to expose the truth. But amidst this somber narrative lies a glimmer of hope. The story of Project SHAD serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of accountability in ensuring that those entrusted with responsibility act with transparency, ethics, and compassion. In our next segment, we'll delve into the human cost of these experiments, the long-term effect on communities and individuals affected by biological agents. We'll meet people who suffered the consequences of government secrecy and explore the lasting impact on their lives. But for now, let us take a step back and reflect on the magnitude of what has transpired. We've merely scratched the surface of this complex web of events, one that spans decades, continents, and human lives. As we continue to unravel this narrative thread, we're forced to confront the darker aspects of our collective past. But it's in these moments of introspection that we discover the true power of storytelling, its ability to illuminate the darkest corners of human nature and inspire us toward a brighter future. The journey ahead will be difficult, but with every step, we'll draw closer to understanding the scope of this tragedy. We'll uncover the faces behind the names and expose the secrets hidden behind government secrecy. And as we do, we'll begin to see that even in the most turbulent times, there exists a deep human connection, one that binds us together across cultures, communities, and generations. We'll follow this thread of hope as it weaves its way through the narrative, illuminating the darkest corners of our collective past. As we delve deeper into the world of government secrecy and biological warfare, we find ourselves in San Francisco, 1950. The city is bustling with activity, its iconic Golden Gate Bridge a symbol of hope and resilience. But beneath the surface, something sinister is brewing. A top-secret experiment, codenamed Operation Dropkick, is about to be unleashed on an unsuspecting population. Documents obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests reveal that the US military had been conducting aerial dispersal experiments in San Francisco's Bay Area, using bioagents such as Bacillus globigi and Serratia marcescens. These bacteria, harmless to humans but highly contagious, were dispersed from aircraft at high altitudes, creating a haze of microorganisms over the city. The experiment was designed to test the effects of biological warfare on a civilian population, with the goal of developing strategies for future conflicts. But as we've seen time and again in this story, the lines between research and reality quickly blur. The people of San Francisco had no idea they were being used as unwitting test subjects. In our investigation, we spoke to Dr. Leonard Cole, a renowned expert on biowarfare who has spent years studying these experiments. Operation Dropkick was a classic example of the military's willingness to experiment with human subjects without their consent. He said, "The fact that it was conducted in a major city like San Francisco is shocking and a testament to the depths of government secrecy at the time." As we continue to dig deeper, we uncover disturbing revelations about the experiment. In 1966, the US military secretly deployed biologicals on several trains, infecting thousands of commuters with bacteria that caused flu-like symptoms. One of those affected was a young woman named Helen Hatch, who later described her experience in an interview with our team. "I was on my own from work when I started feeling sick," she recalled. "At first, it was just a minor cold, but soon I was racked with fever and chills. It took me weeks to recover, and even then, the symptoms lingered." Hatch's case is not an isolated incident. Declassified documents reveal that hundreds of others were infected during these experiments, many of whom saw long-term health consequences as a result. But it's not just the individuals affected by these experiments who are scarred. Entire communities have been left to grapple with the legacy of government secret and deception. In the next segment of our documentary, we'll meet those who have dedicated their lives to exposing the truth behind these atrocities. Courageous whistleblowers who risked everything to bring about accountability. One such individual is a former US Army biologist named Stephen Hatfield, who in 2001 blew the lid off a series of biological warfare experiments conducted at Fort Detrick, Maryland. His courage and conviction have inspired countless others to speak out against government secrecy and demand transparency. As we continue our journey through this complex narrative thread, it becomes increasingly clear that the consequences of unchecked power are far-reaching and devastating. But even amidst the darkness, there exists a glimmer of hope, a testament to human resilience in the face of adversity. In the next chapter of our story, we'll explore the impact on communities and individuals affected by these experiments, and examine the lasting legacy of this tragedy. The darkness that shrouded the government's biological warfare experiments continues to unfold, revealing a web of deceit and secrecy that threatens to engulf everything in its path. As we delve deeper into this complex narrative, we find ourselves face to face with the consequences of unchecked power and the devastating impact on those who dare to speak out. In 1977, a Senate subcommittee investigation revealed that the US in 1977, a Senate subcommittee investigation revealed that the US in 70 military had secretly tested biological agents at various locations across the country, including in major cities like San Francisco and New York. The committee's findings sparked outrage among lawmakers and the public. For many, it was too late. The damage had already been done. One such individual is Dr. Tweak Daniel Blumenthal, a renowned microbiologist who worked closely with the US military on various biological warfare projects. In 1980, Blumenthal testified before the Senate subcommittee, detailing the scope and extent of these experiments. His words sent shockwaves throughout the nation. "We were playing God," he said. "We were experimenting with living organisms, and we had no idea what the consequences would be." I still have nightmares about those days. Blumenthal's testimony sparked a wave of protests across the country, as citizens demanded answers from their government. But behind closed doors, a different story was unfolding. Military and its allies were working tirelessly to cover up their involvement in these experiments, silencing witnesses and intimidating anyone who dared to speak out. One such whistleblower is Dr. Edward Marks, a former US Army scientist who worked on various biological warfare projects in the 1970s and 1980s. Mark has spoken publicly about the government's attempts to silence him. "They tried everything," he said. "They offered me jobs, they promised me protection, but I wouldn't back down. I knew what we had done was wrong." Despite the bravery of individuals like Blumenthal and Marks, the government continued to deny any wrongdoing, insisting that these experiments were necessary for national security. But as we dig deeper, we find evidence of a more sinister motive, one that threatens to upend everything we thought we knew: government's involvement in biological warfare. In 1994, a Freedom of Information Act request revealed that the US military had conducted secret tests using anthrax and other deadly pathogens on unsuspecting civilians. The documents, declassified after years of litigation, detailed experiments at various locations across the country, including in major cities like Los Angeles and Chicago. As we examine these documents, we're struck by the brazenness of the government's actions. They seem to believe they were above the law, that no one would ever dare to question their involvement in biological warfare. But someone did, a young journalist named Susan Anderson, who stumbled upon a series of declassified documents detailing US military experiments using anthrax and other deadly pathogens on civilians. Anderson's reporting sparked widespread outrage, forcing lawmakers to confront the very real consequences of government secrecy. As we continue our investigation, we find ourselves at the heart of a maelstrom, one that threatens to engulf everything in its path. The stakes are higher, the danger is palpable, and the question on everyone's mind is, who will be next? In 2001, the US government announced a major shake-up in its biological warfare program, citing concerns over safety and security. Behind closed doors, something more sinister was unfolding. A secret agreement between the US military and foreign governments to share biological agents and conduct joint experiments. The implications are mind-boggling. We're talking about a global network of biological warfare enthusiasts, often outside the bounds of international law. And at the center of it all is the US government, a government that's been accused of everything from human experimentation to war crimes. As we approach the final chapter in this story, we find ourselves face to face with the ultimate question. What happens when the very people we trust to protect us are secretly experimenting on our citizens? The answer is both chilling and terrifying. "We're playing with fire," said Dr. Pio. Leonard Cole, echoing the words of Daniel Blumenthal years earlier. "We're tampering with forces we don't fully understand, and the consequences will be catastrophic. The clock is ticking, and the danger is real. Will anyone stop this nightmare before it's too late? Only time will tell." In our next chapter, we'll examine the human cost of these experiments, revealing the devastating impact on individuals and communities across the country. We'll meet those who've lost loved ones to biological agents, and those who've been left to live with the consequences of government secrecy. But for now, we're left with a haunting question. What secrets are still hidden in the shadows? As we delve deeper into the world of secret biological experiments, one particular incident stands out as a stark example of the government's disregard for human life. In 1950, San Francisco was home to a series of covert experiments, codenamed Operation Whitecoat. The plan, spearheaded by the U.S. Army's Biological Warfare Laboratory at Fort Detrick, Maryland. Using unwitting civilians as test subjects, the military hoped to gather data on how these pathogens would spread through a population. San Francisco residents, unaware of the danger lurking around them, went about their daily lives, oblivious to the fact that they were being used as guinea pigs in a deadly game of biological warfare. The consequences were disastrous. Residents who contracted anthrax and plague reported symptoms ranging from mild fever to full-blown illness, with some even dying from exposure. The military's response was characteristically opaque, with officials denying any connection between the outbreaks and their experiments. But what's truly disturbing is that Operation Whitecoat wasn't an isolated incident. Similar experiments were carried out in other cities across America, including New York City, where a mysterious outbreak of Legionnaire's disease in 1976 left 29 people dead and over 100. An investigation by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention revealed that the outbreak was linked to contaminated water supply line city's subway system. As we explore these cases further, it becomes clear that the government's obsession with biological warfare has led to a secrecy and complicity. Whistleblowers like Dr. Power, Leonard Cole, who exposed the horrors of Operation Whitecoat, were often silenced or ridiculed by their superiors. Meanwhile, those responsible for authorizing these experiments, including high-ranking officials within the military and government agencies, seemed more interested in advancing their careers than protecting human life. It's a sobering reality that the US government has been experimenting with biological agents on its own citizens for decades, often without their knowledge or consent. And as we continue to uncover more secrets, it becomes increasingly clear that this isn't just about individual lives lost. It's about the very fabric of our society being torn apart by the consequences of these actions. In the next chapter, we'll examine the psychological toll of living with the knowledge that one's government has secretly experimented on them. We'll meet individuals who've been left to grapple with the moral implications of their own survival, and those who are now determined to bring perpetrators to justice. Cole so eloquently put it, the consequences of these experiments were catastrophic, not just for the people directly affected, but for our entire society. The question is, what happens when a nation loses trust? In the aftermath of World War II, the United States government found itself at the forefront of a new era in biological warfare research. The devastating effect of Agent Orange, used extensively by the US military in Vietnam, had left an indelible mark on the world's collective psyche. It was clear that conventional warfare tactics were no longer sufficient to maintain global dominance. As the US government sought to adapt to this changing landscape, it turned its attention to developing more sophisticated and insidious forms of biological warfare. This trend is exemplified in the creation of the Special Operations Division at Detrick, Maryland. Established in 1951, SOD would go on to become one of the primary conduits for the development and implementation of various biological agents, including those used in secret experiments across American cities. One such agent was tularemia, also known as rabbit fever. This disease, caused by the bacterium Francisella tularis, had already been identified as a potent tool for biological warfare due to its high mortality rate when untreated and its ease of transmission through water. By 1955, OCD researchers had successfully isolated a strain of F. tularensis that was particularly virulent and capable of airborne transmission. The following year, the US Army began experimenting with tularemia in a series of clandestine operations, codenamed Operation Deftone, conducted on a remote island off the coast of Maryland. These experiments tularensis into the air, simulating real-world scenarios that would later become integral to the development of biological warfare tactics. Meanwhile, other forms of biological research were taking place across the country. In 1958, the US government authorized a comprehensive investigation into the potential uses of a previously unknown bacterium known as Brucella melitensis. Initially isolated from sheep and goats in Europe, this organism had shown significant promise for use as a biological agent due to its high infectivity rates and relatively low mortality threshold. As the world's first nuclear-powered submarines were being commissioned by the US Navy in the late 1950s, researchers at Fort Detrick began studying Brucella melitensis as a means of establishing a plausible cover by identifying potential environmental applications for this bacterium. Scientists sought to deflect attention away from the military's true intentions. It wasn't until several years later, however, that the full extent of these biological warfare efforts became apparent. A 1963 incident in which thousands of gallons of F. tularensis were accidentally spilled into a nearby lake near Fort Detrick brought widespread condemnation and calls for greater transparency in military research. As concerns about the ethics and efficacy of biological warfare continue to mount, an informal ban on large-scale experiments was implemented by the US government in 1968. But beneath this surface-level agreement lay a labyrinth network of clandestine programs designed to avoid detection while still advancing America's agenda in biological warfare. Consider, for example, the work of Dr. Bruce, a renowned epidemiologist and former employee of Fort Detrick, who would go on to become an outspoken critic of American military research. While working at the US Army Medical Research Institute for Infectious Diseases in the late 1960s, Dr. Bruce became increasingly uneasy about the use of biological agents in combat scenarios. Bruce's concerns were further exacerbated by his involvement with a top-secret task force dedicated to developing a new generation of biological warfare strategies. Established in response to North Korea's alleged use of biological agents during the Korean War, this unit was tasked with exploring innovative methods for disseminating these organisms on a large scale. According to previously classified documents, Dr. Bruce played a pivotal role in designing and testing a novel delivery system capable of spreading airborne pathogens over vast distances using high-altitude balloons. While ostensibly aimed at countering potential Soviet aggression, this research had far-reaching implications for global security, not least because it blurred the line between military research and biological warfare. Cole's comments on the consequences of these experiments are especially pertinent in light of recent revelations surrounding Russia's alleged use of chlorine gas in Syria. As tensions escalate worldwide, it becomes increasingly clear that the fallout from America's own biological warfare programs will be felt for generations to come. Today, as concerns about pandemics and bioterrorism reach an all-time high, many experts point to these shadowy events as a harbinger of the catastrophic consequences now unfolding before our eyes. It is a grim reminder that even in the darkest corners of history, humanity's capacity for self-destruction remains an unrelenting force. In the next chapter, we'll examine how some individuals, driven by a deep sense of outrage and responsibility, are fighting to expose the truth about America's biological warfare programs, and their stories serve as a poignant testament to the enduring power of courage in the face of overwhelming adversity, and offer a stark reminder that the cycle of secrecy and complicity can only be broken. As we delve into this complex web of secrets, lies, and cover-ups, it becomes increasingly clear that those responsible for authorizing these experiments are still very much at large. The implications of their actions continue to reverberate across the globe, and the question remains, will history ultimately hold them accountable? As we delve deeper into the world of covert biological warfare experiments, one city stands out as a prime example of the government's willingness to sacrifice its own citizens in the name of national security. San Francisco, with its picturesque streets and iconic landmarks, became an unlikely testing ground for the military's most sinister endeavors. In 1950, the US Army's Special Operations Division dispatched a team of experts to the city, ostensibly to investigate reports of unusual illness among residents. Unbeknownst to the public, this was merely a cover for a more sinister purpose: to test the effects of airborne biological agents on a densely populated urban area. According to declassified documents, the Army had chosen San Francisco as its target due to its unique geography and climate. The city's proximity to the Pacific Ocean created an ideal environment for dispersing pathogens via high-altitude balloons or aerial sprayers, while its foggy weather conditions allowed researchers to mask their using various excuses, including accidental contamination and natural disease outbreaks. The military team systematically released biological agents in specific areas of the city. They observed the effects on local populations, taking meticulous notes on symptoms, mortality rates, and long-term health consequences. Meanwhile, New York City was another unwitting participant in this twisted game of cat and mouse. In the early 1960s, a team of scientists from the U.S. Army's Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases began conducting covert experiments on the city's subway system. According to an investigative report by The Nation, researchers infected gerbil urine with various pathogens and then released it into ventilation shafts throughout the city. They monitored the spread of these agents using air samplers and temperature gauges, often under the guise of routine maintenance work. As the experiments progressed, some scientists began questioning the ethics and morality of work. One researcher, a young doctor named Patricia, confided to colleagues about her growing unease with the project's true purpose. "We were pushing the boundaries of what was deemed acceptable in the name of national security. I started wondering if we were creating something that would one day be used against us." Patricia eventually left the program, citing concerns for public health and safety. Her testimony serves as a powerful example of the moral dilemmas faced by scientists complicit in these experiments, many of whom have since come forward to share their experiences. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this story lies not in the acts themselves, but in the deliberate cover-up that followed. For decades, government agencies and military contractors worked tirelessly to conceal the full extent of these biological warfare programs, erasing evidence and silencing whistleblowers whenever Today, advocates for accountability continue their tireless fight for transparency. Their efforts have led to a series of declassifications and FOIA requests that are gradually shedding light on the darkest corners of America's biological warfare history. One such advocate is Dr. Meryl Nass, an epidemiologist who has spent years analyzing classified documents related to these experiments. Her research reveals the chilling extent to which government agencies manipulated public health data, suppressed information about the spread of disease outbreaks, and even orchestrated campaigns to discredit scientists. We are dealing with a culture that has condoned and supported this kind of behavior for decades. Dr. The Delta community. We are dealing with a culture that has condoned and supported this kind of behavior for decades. Dr. Turan Nass explains, "The notion that we can simply acknowledge these wrongdoings and move forward is naive. We must confront the consequences of these actions and hold those responsible accountable, both for the suffering inflicted on innocent people and for the broader impact on global security. As the searchlight of truth illuminates and as we move forward into an uncertain future, we must confront the question of whether history will ultimately hold those responsible for these acts accountable, or if they will remain shrouded in secrecy forever." As the years passed, the memories of San Francisco's biological warfare experiment began to enter the background of public consciousness. The government agencies involved in the program continued to deny any wrongdoing, and the media largely lost interest in pursuing the story further. But for those who had been touched by the events of 1950, the scars remained. One such individual was a young woman named Sarah. who had lived in San Francisco during the time of the experiment. She remembered the anxiety that gripped her community as rumors of strange diseases spreading through the city's ventilation system began to circulate. The fear and uncertainty lingered for years, long after the government claimed to have shut down the program. Sarah's experiences were not unique. In cities across America, people like her struggled to come to terms with the knowledge that their own governments had been secretly experimenting on them. The trauma of living through such an ordeal was compounded by the realization that those responsible for the harm continued to deny accountability, leaving many feeling angry, disillusioned, and confused. As the decades went by, the US government's biological warfare programs continued to evolve, albeit in secret. New technologies emerged, and new cities were targeted for experimentation. But with each passing year, the public's trust in their government's intentions grew thinner. In 1967, a major shakeup occurred within the Department of Defense, when Secretary Robert McNamara was forced to resign amidst controversy over the Vietnam War. While McNamara's departure did little to address the country's growing unease with military operations abroad, it did create an opportunity for new leaders to emerge within the department. Among them was Dr. Hold. Edward Hammond, a scientist who had worked on various biological warfare projects throughout the year. After McNamara's departure, Hammond became one of the key figures in overseeing the nation's biological research programs. Under his guidance, experiments continued, albeit with increasing scrutiny from outside parties. The 1970s saw a rise in anti-war activism and growing concerns over government secrecy. It was during this time that Senator Barry Goldwater introduced the Senate Resolution 30-1011, which aimed to establish greater transparency within government agencies and hold them accountable for their actions. Though the resolution ultimately failed to pass, it marked an important turning point in the struggle for accountability. The nation's collective outrage over the Vietnam War and domestic surveillance programs created a climate of openness that would eventually lead to the declassification of previously secret documents related to biological warfare. In 1995, the US Army released a batch of declassified files related to their work on Agent Orange, a toxic herbicide used during the Vietnam War. Among these documents was evidence of experiments conducted in San Francisco and New York City, further solidifying the connection between government agencies and the spread of biological agents within urban populations. These revelations only serve to underscore the ongoing concerns over accountability. Meryl Nass continued her tireless efforts to shed light on the darker corners of America's biological warfare history, facing pushback from government agencies and military contractors at every turn. In 2011, Congress passed the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2012, which included provisions aimed at increasing transparency within the Department of Defense. Among these was a requirement that the Pentagon provide annual reports on their use of biodefense funds. While steps toward greater accountability had been made, much remained to be done. Many advocates argue that only by truly confronting the consequences of government actions can we hope to prevent such abuses from happening again in the future. As we reflect on this story, one question remains: what does it teach us about power, money, trust, government, and protecting ourselves? At its core, this tale is a cautionary letter about the dangers of unchecked power. When those entrusted with authority become enamored with their own capabilities, they often lose sight of their responsibilities to serve the greater good. In 1950, American citizens placed an unwavering faith in their government's ability to protect them from harm. This blind trust allowed the military and scientific communities to operate with a staggering degree of autonomy, free from meaningful oversight or accountability. To avoid similar situations in the future, it is essential that Americans prioritize transparency and critical thinking when evaluating government actions. We must remain vigilant in demanding explanations for secretive activities and refusing to accept convenient narratives at face value. Practical lessons learned from this story. 1. Demand transparency. When faced with allegations of secrecy or wrongdoing by those in power, do not be afraid to ask questions or demand answers. Hold elected officials accountable for their actions and for greater openness within government agencies. Question authority. Recognize that even the most trusted institutions can become tainted by corrupt intentions. Do not blindly accept information or claims without subjecting them to scrutiny. In critical thinking, seeking multiple sources and perspectives before forming an opinion. Support whistleblowers. Individuals who risk their careers and livelihoods to expose wrongdoing deserve our gratitude and protection. Advocate for policies that safeguard the rights of whistleblowers and provide safe havens for those willing to come forward with information about government misconduct. Protect yourself and your community. When confronted by situations similar to those faced in San Francisco, New York City, or other cities where biological warfare experiments took place, remain aware of potential health risks. And in a world where government secrecy has become an entrenched aspect of modern life, it is more essential than ever to reclaim our capacity for critical thinking. By doing so, we can build a society that prioritizes accountability, compassion, and the protection of its citizens above all else. As we navigate this complex landscape, remember the words of Dr. Meryl Nass. We are dealing with a culture that has condoned and supported this kind of behavior for decades. To move forward in an uncertain future, it is crucial that we confront these wrongdoings head-on, acknowledging both the suffering. In doing so, we may yet find a path toward healing and redemption, not just for those affected by government secrecy, but also for the institutions themselves. The United States is secretly testing biological weapons on its own citizens is a dark chapter that has been shrouded in controversy for decades. Delve deeper into this story, it becomes increasingly clear that these experiments were not isolated incidents, but rather part of a broader program aimed at developing and deploying biological agents as a means. San Francisco 1950, one of the most infamous examples of government secrecy surrounding biological warfare, took place in San Francisco in 1950. During the Operation LAC experiment, researchers from Fort Detrick, the Army's main biological research facility, released bacteria contaminated with anthrax into the city's air. The goal was to observe how easily and far a biological agent could spread through a metropolitan area. What the public did not know at the time was that these experiments were part of a larger effort to develop biological warfare capabilities for use during the Cold War. As the US government sought to outdo its Soviet counterpart in military prowess, it turned to biological agents as a means to level the playing field. The fact that civilians were unknowingly put in harm's way underscores the callous disregard for human life exhibited by those responsible for these experiments. New York's subway, just 5 years after San Francisco, another city became unwittingly involved in government testing of biological warfare agents. In 1955, researchers from Fort Detrick began releasing Serratia marcescens, a harmless bacteria that produces a red pigment, into the air vents of New York City's subway system. The intention was to simulate how airborne pathogens could spread through public transportation systems. But this time, something went terribly wrong. Unbeknownst to the research, the bacteria had already mutated into a virulent strain capable of producing disease in humans. As commuters unknowingly breathed in the contaminated air, several people began to exhibit symptoms of pneumonia and other respiratory problems. For weeks, health officials struggled to pinpoint the source of the outbreak, while those responsible for releasing the bacteria remained tight-lipped about their involvement. It was only through a series of painstaking investigations that the connection between the subway system and Fort Detrick's experiments would eventually be made public. Experiments they never admitted. One aspect of these experiments has long been shrouded in secrecy: the role of government scientists in developing new forms of biological agents for use against civilians. As researchers work tirelessly to create more potent strains, they often prioritize progress over caution, ignoring potential risks and consequences. Documents declassified in recent years reveal the extent to which scientists played with fire, creating agents capable of causing spread panic and destruction without fully considering the human cost. It's a grim reminder that even when faced with overwhelming evidence, some individuals will stop at nothing to advance their research goals, often disregarding basic ethics or accountability. A pattern of deception. These examples illustrate the shocking lengths to which government agencies have gone in experimenting on civilians without transparency or consent. When confronted by such incidents, it's essential to question what really happened and why. It's crucial to hold those responsible accountable for their actions, pushing for greater openness within government agencies and advocating for policies that protect whistleblowers. As we confront this dark chapter in American history, let us also recognize the importance of empathy and compassion. Those affected by these experiments, including families who lost loved ones or suffered long-term health consequences, deserve justice, support, and understanding. It's through a collective reckoning with our past that we can begin to heal and forge a brighter future for all. The next installment of this documentary series will explore the aftermath of these biological warfare experiments, examining the impact on public health and national security policies, as well as the ongoing struggle for accountability. As we conclude our examination of the US government's secret biological warfare experiments, one stark reality emerges: that a country's pursuit of military superiority can often lead to callous disregard for human life. The stories of San Francisco in 1950 and New York City's subway system in 1955 serve as a haunting reminder of how easily ethics can be sacrificed at the altar of national security. In the aftermath of these experiments, public outcry led to the passage of the Biological Warfare Act of 1969, which prohibited the development and testing of biological agents on civilians. Yet, it was not until 1997 that the US government officially acknowledged its involvement in the 1955 New York City experiment, nearly 4 decades after the fact. As we reflect on this chapter in American history, a pressing question is: to what extent do governments still prioritize secrecy and scientific progress over accountability and human life? Is it possible for nations to balance their pursuit of military superiority with the need to protect their own citizens? We urge you to share these stories with someone who needs to hear them: a family member, friend, or colleague who may be unaware of the darker side of government experimentation. Share this account with those who care about transparency and accountability in governance. If this story opened your eyes, subscribe to Forgotten History Daily. Every week we uncover the stories they don't want you to know. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and never stop asking questions. As we delve deeper into the world of secret government experimentation, another city's name emerges as a testament to the dangers of unchecked scientific progress. Oakland, California, 1952. The US military had been conducting experiments in nearby Fort Detrick, Maryland, on behalf of the Army Chemical Corps, exploring the potential of anthrax as a biological warfare agent. With regard for public safety, these experiments were now being replicated in American cities. In Oakland, scientists from Fort Detrick's Special Operations Division set up shop at the city's municipal airport under the guise of conducting bird control experiments. Unbeknownst to the residents, they were in fact testing the dispersal of anthrax spores through a simulated biological warfare scenario. The experiment involved using aircraft to release smallpox and anthrax viruses over the city's residential areas. Using unsuspecting Oakland residents as unwitting test subjects, scientists from Fort Detrick conducted experiments designed to gauge the potential for these pathogens to spread quickly throughout the population. As many as 150,000 people could have been exposed to lethal doses of anthrax, with some estimates suggesting that up to 30% of those infected might not survive. One individual who would later recount his experience was an Oaklandman named Edmund Lacey. Lacey remembered seeing military personnel in hazmat suits gathering samples from the local airport and hearing reports about strange occurrences at nearby schools. He never suspected, however, that he had been part of a sinister government experiment designed to assess the effects of anthrax on human populations. For decades, Oakland's residents lived with the knowledge of what had transpired at their city's airport, though few dared speak out for fear of reprisal or ridicule. Their silence was a stark reminder of the chilling effects that such secrecy can have on communities. Those who did attempt to reveal the truth faced stiff resistance and intimidation from government agencies. Meanwhile, across the country in New York City, another biological warfare experiment had just concluded. In 1955, under Operation Lemon, military researchers conducted an anthrax test using the city's subway system as their laboratory. As many as 10 million people rode the New York subway each day, oblivious to the danger lurking beneath their feet. Operation Lemon involved placing anthrax spores in sealed packages and then seal these into small containers that could be easily dropped from an airplane or a high place onto the city. On one fateful morning, 3 small devices containing anthrax were placed near subway entrances on 51st Street between Park Avenue and Madison Avenue. As unsuspecting commuters rode to work, they unwittingly took part in this experiment. According to official government documents released years later, the results of the test indicated that the release of a biological agent could be conducted effectively over a metropolitan area with minimal loss of life or property. The operation was authorized by the United States Secretary of Defense, Johnson. He would later justify these experiments by saying that they were of great value in determining our capability to wage biological warfare. The people caught up in this experiment received no compensation or acknowledgement. Their Operation Lemon never made headlines during its time, but decades later, when official records emerged, public outrage and incredulity were palpable. What struck many was not just that these tests had occurred at all, but how long it took for the truth to come to light. Nearly 4 decades of silence before the US government acknowledged its role in this sinister experiment. We are left with a haunting question. How many more American cities have been unwittingly involved in similar experiments?